Now, President Emmanuel Macron has promised to enshrine the fight against climate change in the French constitution, but those plans may now be scuppered in the French Senate, according to a report in the Journal du Dimanche paper. Now, the plan to state in the constitution that France guarantees environmental protection and biological diversity and combats climate change originated in a citizens' body set up by Emmanuel Macron last year. Meanwhile, around 160 marches have been organised across France today, protesting over a climate law passed earlier this week that many feel is not ambitious enough. Wasim Cornet is at Place de la République in Paris. Hi, Wasim. Tell us more about why people are dissatisfied enough to organise marches all over the country.
Well, first of all, just to paint the picture, James, we're a little under an hour here before people are set to start gathering here at Place de la République, but people are already here. As you mentioned, this climate law was passed earlier this week by the French government, by the French Parliament. It still has to go through the Senate and then back to the national Parliament with maybe a few amendments. This law will have some significant impact on French people's daily lives. But the climate activists that are expected to gather here today say that is definitely not enough. Many of these measures won't be implemented until 2028, 2030, 2040. Climate activists say they want these measures to be implemented a lot sooner. And even the government acknowledges that with this law alone, it will not hit its emissions target. That emissions target being a decrease of 30% by the year 2040. They also want a lot of these measures to become mandatory. Right now, a lot of the measures that are currently in the law and that might be passed in the next few weeks are only meant to encourage citizens to move in a certain direction. Bear in mind, though, that this is a difficult situation for the government to be in. It is really walking on a tightrope because before the pandemic, if you may remember, for almost a year, France was rocked by weekly yellow vest protests in Paris and across the country that really began with a grassroots citizens movement when the government decided to decrease the speed limit on many of the country's roads. The grassroots citizens movement said, well, hey, French government in Paris, centralized government, you are disconnected from the reality of life in rural France. So really the government is hoping to try to strike a balance between working forward, working in favor of the climate, trying to make some significant changes that will help us preserve our planet and decrease emissions while not angering many millions of French people who may actually ignite a blowback if too many changes are implemented. Climate activists are expected to gather today and say to the government, well, it's a climate emergency. We really don't have the luxury to wait.